The document I keep returning to isn't a crime scene photograph. It isn't an autopsy report. It's a single paragraph from a 1996 arrest record out of Moss Point, Mississippi, a small coastal town in Jackson County, the kind of place that doesn't make the national news and mostly prefers it that way. The paragraph describes how police responded to a trailer on a rural property after receiving a call. It doesn't say who made the call. Not in this paragraph. You have to go deeper into the file to find that dot. And when I found it, when I understood exactly who had made that call and what they had survived to make it, I closed my laptop and sat there for a while. I don't take cases lightly. I've covered murders, disappearances, cold cases that span decades. I've read files that stayed with me for months. But there was something about the specific detail buried in that arrest record, the way it was written so plainly, like a bureaucratic formality that hit differently. Because what that paragraph describes, stripped of its legal language, is this: an 18-year-old woman was locked inside a metal toolbox at a crime scene while a murder was happening, and she got herself out. That's Brook Weber. And that's why I couldn't close this file. Court documents, investigative reporting, and documentary coverage of the case give me this. According to available records, August 12, 1996, Moss Point, Mississippi. Brook Weber is 18 years old at the time. Gary Carl Simmons, Jr. and a man named Timothy Milano are involved in her abduction. The destination is Simmons' trailer. The night that follows is the heart of this case, and it is not easy to sit with Dot Simmons, and Milano are not strangers to violence. Simmons has a history I'll get into, but in 1996, the record shows both men operate in the orbit of drug trafficking. Jeffrey Wolf becomes a figure in their orbit on this night. Documents indicate Wolf owes Simmons money related to narcotics. On the night of August 12th, the two men bring Wolf to the trailer. What happens next is documented in trial records. Simmons kills him, then dismembers the body. I want to be precise here because precision matters. I'm not including those details for effect. I'm including them because they establish what Brook Weber is in proximity to, what she can hear, or may have heard from inside a metal toolbox, while she simultaneously tries to find a way out. She finds it. She escapes the box without assistance. She contacts police. That call breaks the case. Simmons and Milano are arrested. The investigation moved forward because an 18-year-old woman, alone in the dark, chose not to stop trying. I couldn't close this file because the case record answers the legal questions. Who did it? What sentence the court imposed? What it doesn't answer is the thing that keeps pulling me back. What was happening inside that box, and what Brook Weber knew, and when. I pulled everything I could get my hands on, court records through Gulf Live and Investigation Discovery episode, Shattered, the box from 2017, and a more recent segment on Evil Lives Here from 2026 titled The Butcher and the Box. I cross-referenced every account the sources offered. The first thing that strikes me is how compressed the timeline is. The abduction, the murder, the escape, the arrest, it all happens within one night. The urgency embedded in that compression is something documents can't fully communicate. Let me slow it down. Simmons' trailer sits on a rural Moss Point property. Isolation matters. It matters to Simmons' planning. It matters to what Brook Weber has to work with when she's trying to get out of a locked metal box. And the toolbox itself deserves more attention than case summaries typically give it. A metal toolbox is not a room. It's not a cellar. It's an enclosed metal container. The physics of escaping one from the inside, particularly one locked or secured from the outside, are not simple. What do you do? What do you use? What does the inside of your own mind sound like when you are doing it? I don't have a direct answer. What I have is the fact that she did it. The record is unambiguous. Weber freed herself unassisted. That single fact tells me something about who Brook Weber is that no case summary captures. Here's the complication. The documentary coverage gives fragments of Weber's account, but documentary testimony requires corroboration against primary court records with the access I currently have. Documentary medium shapes narratives. It compresses. It selects. It frames. I don't let documentary framing stand in for verified fact. So I'll be deliberate about what's established versus what secondary coverage provides. What is established? Simmons and Milano face arrest following Weber's call. The murder and dismemberment of Jeffrey Wolf is documented and prosecuted. Both men are convicted. What I kept pressing on is the question of Wolf itself. According to available records, Jeffrey Wolf is involved in the case. He is killed over a drug debt. And here's what struck me as I went deeper. He and Brook Weber are at the same location on the same night. The same two men brought them there. One survives. One does not. That asymmetry is not comfortable. It's not supposed to be. The documentary framing tends to center the story as a survival narrative, which it is. Brook Weber's escape is remarkable, but Wolf's death sometimes functions as almost backdrop, context for her danger, rather than its own complete tragedy. The debt that got Wolf killed was, by the accounts I've reviewed, a narcotics debt. The kind of thing that in a different circumstance with different people gets settled or absorbed. Simmons chose to kill over it. That choice tells you what kind of man Gary Carl Simmons Jr. was, and here's where the record gets dense. Simmons' criminal history extends beyond this case. He is not a man who committed one act of violence and was otherwise ordinary. The pattern visible in the case record shows escalation. The death penalty case against Simmons proceeds through the Mississippi court system. Simmons is on death row for years. He is executed on June 20th, 2012. 16 years after that night, Milano receives life without parole. Reports suggest he remains incarcerated in the Mississippi prison system. The system, by its own measure, functioned. Men were convicted. Sentences were imposed and carried out. But the system functioned because Brook Weber did something extraordinary in the dark. And the case record, in its clinical precision, can't hold the weight of what that was. I thought I understood the shape of this case going in. Abduction, murder, survivor, justice, eventual and imperfect. I had my framework, then I read a detail and investigative coverage regarding the timeline at the trailer, the sequencing of what happens to Wolf and what happens to Weber, whether they overlap, about when Weber was confined relative to when the violence occurred. I can't confirm the exact sequence with the sources I have, and I want to be honest about that limitation rather than fill the gap with assumption. But here's what I can tell you. The accounts across documentary coverage are not entirely consistent on this point. Different productions emphasize different elements. Some suggest overlap. Others are less specific. But why does that discrepancy matter? Because if Weber was in that box during the violence, if she could hear it, or had reason to believe what was happening nearby, then the act of escaping becomes something even harder to comprehend. You are not just solving an engineering problem in the dark. You are doing it while understanding At some level, what escape means, what it means to be found before you get out, I don't have an answer to that. I don't know what Brook Weber knew in those hours, or what she heard, or what she told herself to keep moving. That's the question I can't resolve. And I'm not sure it's mine to resolve. I've gone through every source I have more times than I can count. Here's where the evidence leaves me. Gary Carl Simmons, Jr. and Timothy Milano committed these crimes. That is not in dispute. The legal record is clear. The convictions were upheld. The sentencing has been carried out in Simmons' case. Whatever questions remain, guilt is not one of them. What remains is the question of Jeffrey Wolf. Wolf's death is a primary charge in the capital case against Simmons. But Wolf himself is complicated, neither straightforwardly innocent nor deserving of what happened to him. The drug debt that precipitated his murder situates him inside the same world as his killers. That doesn't diminish what was done. It complicates the clean narrative of victim and perpetrator. Cases like this deserve to sit with that complication. One detail stands out: the role of physical evidence. With Simmons' execution in 2012, a finality settles over the legal record that can make further inquiry feel unnecessary. The case is closed. The sentence was carried out. But closed legal cases are not the same as understood cases. I cannot prove what Brook Weber experienced beyond what documentary record describes. But I cannot ignore the weight of what the documentary record is actually describing when you read it carefully. A young woman confined in proximity to murder, who chose action over paralysis and changed the outcome. That's not a TV narrative trope. That's a documented fact. The gap between what the documents record and what that experience must have actually felt like, that gap is where this case lives. The competing explanations for documentary inconsistencies are probably mundane. Different productions have different editorial focuses. Timelines compress for television. Details get reordered for narrative clarity. I'd want primary court transcripts before I made anything of those inconsistencies. What I'm left with is this. 2 men set out to commit violence in a rural Mississippi trailer in August 1996. One was executed for it. One is serving life. And the person who broke the case, the person without whom those outcomes may never have happened, did so at 18 years old. Alone in a metal box. The system gave Simmons 16 more years before carrying out his sentence. Jeffrey Wolf didn't get 16 more years, and the record doesn't touch what Brook Weber carries. I keep coming back to that arrest record, the paragraph that doesn't name her, that describes the police response, the call that prompted it, the location, a trailer in Moss Point, Mississippi, August 12, 1996. Written in the flat language of law enforcement, bureaucracy. There's a person behind that language. There's a night that doesn't compress into a paragraph. There's a metal box, and whatever Brook Weber found, whatever strength or stubbornness or refusal inside herself in the dark, Gary Carl Simmons was executed on June 20th, 2012. Timothy Milano is imprisoned in the Mississippi system. The legal chapter is finished, but cases don't end when the gavel comes down. They continue in the people who carry them, and Jeffrey Wolf's family, who lost him to a debt that should never have been a death sentence. In Brook Weber, wherever she is now, living a life that she had to fight, physically, in the most literal sense, to preserve. I don't know what she remembers from inside that box. I don't know what she hears when it's quiet. I'm not sure anyone outside that experience could understand it fully enough to say. What I know is that she made a choice in the dark, and that choice echoed forward for decades, through a trial, through an execution, through every document in that case file. The question I'll carry out of this one isn't about Simmons. It isn't about evidence or timeline. It's simpler than that, and harder. What does it cost a person to survive a night like that? And does the record, any record, ever come close to accounting for it? I don't think it does. This is Roy Holloway. I'll keep pulling the file.